How legit is Leon versus Krauser in Resident Evil 4? Scenic Fights by, of course, Scenic Fights. Leon versus Krauser is one of my favorites combat fight sequences in kind of all of gaming, actually. I just thoroughly love it. I thought it was choreographed very well in the original, and the remake also adds its own little twist and flair to it. So I know we've compared and contrasted it before. I don't know if the videos are still up. Maybe they are. They used to be combat critiques. I don't know if they're still up or not. But I figured, let's get someone with a little more expertise than me to kind of look at this. So this is a reaction to a reaction. This is super meta already. And let's dive into my own experience with, combat things that I do like SCA and his experience and any other experts he brings on. I'm very curious to this.
Welcome back to another episode of Scenic Fights,
Fight Scenes Breakdown.
My name is Logan Lowe, and I'm a Pikiti Tertia instructor.
And I'm Chad Vasquez. I am the owner and head coach of Paxibellum Jiu-Jitsu here in New York City.
Cool
All right,
stuff.
so Chad, we're actually doing something a little bit different. We're looking at two scenes today.
Okay.
It's the same scene, but one is the original, and one is the remake for Resident Evil 4. And it's a duel between Leon S. Kennedy and Jack Krauser. And we're going to see which one of the two knife fights is more realistic and better.
Before we continue, we have a YouTube membership, which you can subscribe to right now. If you do, you'll get emojis of these handsome faces, deleted scenes, and we are doing live Q&As, in fact, on this breakdown and upcoming breakdowns.
If we get enough members to sign up. So, sign up. All right, are you ready, Chad Krauser?
Let's do it, rookie.
So we're starting with the remake, very strong. I usually start with, when I talk about this, I usually compare and contrast from the original. The remake had a really interesting way that they went about this.
Long time no see, rookie.
Man, that's a nasty looking scar.
Scarface here, look at this.
Seriously.
Why?
Pretty boy.
Recovering stolen.
So Krauser, I believe, trained Leon in the past, and that's the story here.
Gotcha. They don't look like they're friends.
Nah, based on how he's holding that knife, no.
No.
That's not a friendship hold.
No.
Catch him quick.
Damn, Krauser moves fast.
So this is one of those that you could argue 21-foot rule, but this is also one of those where Krauser, we do know, open information, open secret, is very much augmented by the plugin. And I think in the original as well, I think it was the T. Veronica virus. It was Darkseid. So Krauser's kind of a weird ism in Resident Evil, specifically before we got more clarification on his backstory, because he kind of just shows up in 4. And people are kind of just like, did we miss like a Resident Evil like 2.5 or something? Like, did we miss something? His story gets a little bit more expanded upon, at least the Krauser that we knew got expanded upon in Darkseid Chronicles. There was a whole, him and Leon and some other task force members ended up going down to South America and ended up having to fight some BOWs down there from, I believe it was some cartels. And Krauser ended up getting hit by a bone spike from a BOW. I think it was the mother, or it was the mother, his wife of Javier, or Javier himself. I can't remember. But he gets hit with the bone spike and gets with the T. Veronica virus. So that kind of lays like the seeds of his inevitable corruption and lust for power kind of corrupting him. With the remake, it could be true. It could be retcons, because we do know the remakes are kind of going in a little bit of a different direction. So we don't quite know at this time. We don't have enough information. We also did have the Separate Ways ending. When we got Separate Ways, the DLC for Resident Evil 4 Remake, where Krauser's body was recovered by Wesker, and there's, illusion and foreshadowing in regards to things to come. We even do see at the end of the base game when Ada completely diverges from, what original 4 did. We can even see like Tricell, the logo reflected in Wesker's glasses. So a Resident Evil 5 remake would be very interesting. And I think that we would have to really see more in terms of Krauser character development. So that's kind of a crash course. Krauser's kind of a weird character. I personally love him. I think he's great. But his reveal wasn't necessarily the best in terms of like narrative clarity.
Didn't I teach you? Knives are faster.
He doesn't intend to kill him here.
Back. I would start blasting.
But that's the thing. Leon cannot draw fast enough in that proximity. Knives would be faster here, would they not? I open up U.S. military. I know there's U.S. military who watches me. In a situation like this, whether you're Army, Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, whatever, Coast Guard, sure, Special Forces. You happen to be a Ranger, Marine Raider, Navy SEAL. In a situation like this, can you draw fast enough to lock on target and pull the trigger. I don't think so, but then again, I also don't have the requisite training to really add anything to that. I think that he's absolutely correct. I think Scenic Fights here is correct that, that is kind of the default response, and I think that is the general correct response. Krauser here, so closed information, you don't know Krauser is augmented. He just got there really fast. You don't know. I think open information, knowing Krauser is superhuman advanced, I think that you end up drawing, right? Krauser could have ganked Leon right there. He absolutely could have. He ganked Luis Serra because in the scene prior, Luis Serra took a knife to the back. That same knife he's using, right, to the back. Krauser has the element of surprise. Krauser could have game ended Leon should he chose to. He chose not to. He wanted to bait out this fight. And that goes into Krauser being the only Resident Evil villain, especially in Resident Evil 4 Remake, who kind of willingly accepts his demise, right? So there's a little bit of narrative and plot elements there, and it's Krauser trying to make sure he's imparting the lessons to Leon. There's a little bit more characterization going on here.
All right. I like that. I like how they're actually parrying. They're actively just trying to get the weapon out of their face, so that makes a lot of sense.
I think it's great.
I feel that they should really flank more, but it does make sense how they're parrying here. Okay, usually you don't have knives clash together like that.
No.
Okay.
I think that's very much Scenic, though. That's Hollywood isms. That's, video game isms for the Flash, right? Because knife-on-knife contact, I feel, is going to be very risky. At its core, your knife is in contact with their knife, right? Could your knife be in a better position? Yes, no. Generally, yes. If I'm fighting with something like a rapier or a longsword, sure, I can tangle up my opponent's blade just fine. If I had to transition into a knife fight, so, SCA using a smaller rapier that would classify as a dagger, right? If I were to go into an environment like that, I would not be doing the same movements as I would be thrusting and turning my wrist to try to true edge on, deflect their blade or something like that. I would not be trying to gather or cavazione like I could with a long sword or rapier, right? The movements are going to be different. And as I understand it, without doing too much practice, I did get 4 polypropylene K-bar trainers in. So that'll be fun whenever I finally get the Gather Party Venture Forth to have exercises. That'll be fun. Knife fighting is very different in the fact that it very much leans more into close quarters combat and even fist fighting. It's brawling. It's fighting under the umbrella, but it's very much you're brawling and you're using more of your body, in my opinion, right? So as we go throughout the fight,
I feel that they should really flank more, but it does make sense how they're parrying here.
Krauser launches. He launches his right hook, trying to get trying to snag Leon's face. Leon's being able to deflect. They're very much playing keep away right now, which is very much, yes, they're correct. That's how you would do that.
Okay, usually you don't have knives clash together like that. Okay.
Spinning back kick by Krauser.
Nice.
A Mario jump.
And he lands it. Oh, he sticks to landing. Good for him. He'll feel that in about 20 years in his knees.
That's what TRT's for.
Yeah, seriously. I need to get some.
All right, now we're seeing some gameplay footage.
Are you being controlled by that cult? This has nothing to do with them.
Okay. Good. Krauser's being defensive, but still attacking. I like that.
This is actually, I think this is due to the RNG on his AI. Krauser can come out pretty aggressive. It just depends, right? In this specific thing, I think that, Krauser controls the arena right now. You look back at how he kicked Leon into the arena. Krauser, I would argue, is in full control. I don't think he's exerting the most amount of effort, but he's controlling where it matters, right? Being able to nick Leon on the thigh and then kick him into the arena and then reposition, right? I agree. I think flanking could be a good tactic here. I think that Krauser's also a grappler, as I understand his stance. So that also raises some concerns. If Leon tries to passing step or traverse in such a way, could Krauser, especially Superhuman Augmented, maybe kick his feet out from under him like we do see in Resident Evil 4, the original. When you're up on the tower in the final fight and he augments his arm, he'll do a sweep kick and knock you on your back, right? So that is something that is in his arsenal. He is very much down and dirty. We're gonna have a fight. We're gonna have a scrap. Him playing defensive is also going to be able to bait Leon out. He's also probably trying to look for an opening. He very much could be looking for a way to wear out Leon. And the parries as well. The focus on the parries is because Resident Evil 4 Remake does have a parry system, which kind of ruins other games for me, if I'm being honest. Like, if Resident Evil 5 doesn't have a parry, like, I want Resident Evil 5 Mercenaries as it was with a parry system. Perfect game, 10 out of 10. Is actually really like the parry system in 4. But the focus on 4, especially the original, was on knife work, right? One of the strongest weapons, no cap, is literally the knife in RE4. Like, knife just does so much work. So the emphasis on the knife and the parry system is why we're going to have a very knife-centric cinematic style, right?
Krauser's doing a lot of slashing, it looks like, with the
He's
ice
wide.
pick grip. Doesn't make a lot of sense here. Oh, he just switched. He didn't do it at the right time, though, and we can talk about what is a good time to do it.
So Krauser's very wide right now, which is a little odd to me. Leon's keeping it very tight, and that's how he can reasonably parry back to back, right? Because Krauser coming in and trying to effectively throw a haymaker with a knife, not necessarily. I mean, yeah, if it lands, it's gonna hurt, but not necessarily the most efficient, in my opinion.
Oh, see, that was a perfect time. Krauser just did a perfect knife switch. That was good timing by Krauser.
Look, a magic trick.
Good kick.
It's like a knife appeared.
Good
You know what?
distance.
That's exactly right. It is like a magic trick because the opponent thinks that the knife is coming from the right side. All of a sudden, it appears on the left. It's very jarring and very scary.
Misdirection.
Okay, Krauser's being very defensive. Leon's launching a lot of stabbing attacks. Generally speaking, stabs are more dangerous than slashes, so you don't want to eat too many of those stabs. All right, Krauser just did a massive Yoda jump.
Yeah, which I'm sure you don't see a lot in real life.
Krauser does a low kick.
Yeah, see, low kicks right there.
Literally.
He has it in his arsenal.
It looks like Krauser could really stomp into Leon's head, finishing the fight.
And that's the thing. He's not trying to finish the fight. He's trying to have an honest duel in certain aspects, but Krauser is not outright trying to gank Leon. If it happens, it happens, right? If Leon does not fight to Krauser's level, yes, Krauser will finish him. But this is not an all-out, no-holds-barred fight.
Okay. Leon just likes those stabs. Krauser's still able to do that back kick, though. So all of this knife tossing, that never happens in real life.
No.
one does that.
Unless you're Krauser.
Unless you're Krauser.
You haven't changed a damn bit. What a disappointment.
And Krauser's out.
Our Logan, we had slashing, stabbing, meat grinding, frog hopping battles going on here.
Good day.
What are your thoughts?
It's a video game, so we all know it's not going to be hyper realistic.
No.
And also, they are somewhat super powered. So with all that in mind, it was a cool, entertaining scene. Not 100% realistic. Why would it be? But some good things there. And honestly, when it comes to the technology, very impressive.
Logan,
And that's the thing. I think a lot more people need to understand that. He absolutely words that correctly. Is it the most realistic? No. Was it enjoyable? Was it fun for a video game? That's all that matters. I think that there, especially on the internet, there gets a lot of discourse into this isn't hyper realistic enough, or this is too unrealistic. And I think a lot of people, I've talked about this a few times, so I'm going to keep it brief. A lot of people have forgotten how to just enjoy things, how to just appreciate and have gratitude for things. And absolutely, that's not to say don't have criticisms, right? Absolutely, have criticism, have concerns, especially, if your IP is actively getting, value extracted, right? It's okay to have criticisms, but it's also okay to just enjoy something. I enjoy Resident Evil 5, one of my favorite games. I enjoy Majora's Mask, one of my favorite games. Not universally liked games, if I'm being completely honest. Hard recommends as well, but I enjoy them. I can say, yeah, I like Halo 5. I understand why people don't. I understand the criticisms that are, levied against it. I still enjoy it, both multiplayer and campaign. And that's all that matters, right? So I think that touches upon something really, really neat that I think a lot more people need to take to heart.
because I don't believe you, what's one of your favorite moves that you like from this scene?
Honestly, I really like Krauser's knife switch. Not both of them, but the one where it made sense when they were in the bind and Krauser switched the knife to confuse Kennedy and surprise him. That was awesome. I thought that was a good scene.
All right, I'm convinced. I believe you now.
Thanks, Chad.
It was good.
What's one thing that's unrealistic about this scene?
So the thing that really bothers me, I think, is that Krauser's the knife instructor, but he holds it in an ice pick grip. That's not wrong per se, but if you're gonna hold it in an ice pick grip, you're gonna do something called a capture and a cutout. But Krauser doesn't do that. Instead, he slashes with his knife in an ice pick grip, It doesn't make any sense for him to do that. And he, as the instructor, should know that. So that kind of bothers me a little bit. But let's see how it compares with the original.
So this is one of those, I think he's absolutely correct. Hearing him explain it, I understand where he's coming from. I mean, you could argue that's kind of a throwaway jab, right? But thinking on it and thinking how movements works, as well as Krauser being a grappler, I think maybe it would make more sense if maybe he was able to grapple Leon, strong arm him from behind, and then plunge, knife right into Leon's center of mass, right? Something like that, I would argue, would make sense, but we don't really have that in the game, right? So it's something that could happen, but it doesn't really because game. This kind of reads like just kind of a throwaway, like, you know how when you throw a jab just to kind of test your opponent? That's what that kind of reads to me as. Does it have tactical advantage? I would argue no. I mean, there's a number of thrusts and strikes and stuff that I've thrown out with long swords and rapiers that I'm just like, cool, maybe this works. If this works, awesome. If not, well, cool, maybe I'll try something else, right? I do think his criticism holds up, though. I do think that having criticism with that specifically, one, is fair and reasonable. Two, speaks to their credentials and what they actively look for, because it's not just like a criticism of just like face level, Lamau, Krauser, hold it, reverse grip, right? Like there's thought behind that criticism, right? Levying the criticism of holding him in an ice pick grip and then trying to slash out like that. Not sure why he does that. Not necessarily the most mechanically beneficial thing. That is a criticism and critique grounded in experience and knowledge and wisdom and understanding. That's the stuff I like to see.
Damn it, Krauser. Well, it's funny how you think back in the day, graphics are at their peak and then fast forward.
It still looks good.
Games change. Though Leon has smoother skin in this version.
A little bit. Yeah.
How's Krauser looking? Oh, Krauser with an attack.
Krauser QTs.
Is looking.
He's gruff.
Let's see. We haven't seen his face yet.
Been a long time.
Nice entrance. Yo, Krauser's looking pretty smooth too with skin. These guys have been doing some Korean face supplements. I don't know.
Is that what they told you?
Literally playing Metal Gear Delta and understanding why people like Kojima, because I haven't played the other Metal Gear entries. That'll be soon-ish. This very much reads not Kojima himself doing it right, but Resident Evil and Metal Gear Solid, they kind of have some flirting back and forth, right? Resident Evil and Silent Hill 2 to a degree as well, right? Like those that trifecta kind of like love letters each other in a few ways. I know in Resident Evil 4, in this one, the original, Sadler's Throne, you can Devil May Cry sit on, right? So, I mean, this is also just a different era in gaming. I feel the Comrade as well as the Red Beret. I don't know the significance of beret colors. I know that in the U.S. military, certain colors mean different things. I've often, and I think many of us will often relate red to Soviet, right? Spetsnaz even, which is their special forces. Russia Special Forces, Soviet. Oh my God! Soviet Union declared bankruptcy. So much there that I'm just going to cut that there because I do not want to derail this for like 20 minutes while I discuss the history of the Soviet Union going bankrupt and going into modern day Russia. This is not the video for that. But I feel like, especially because this is the era where you have Metal Gear Solid, kind of in its prime. I feel like this may be a little influenced by Cold War isms, right? Like I could see that. I could see that making sense for language choice here.
You're the one who kidnapped Ashley. You got John quick, as expected.
Oh, still a swirler.
After all, you and I both.
Yeah, you actually can't do that with the choil like that. You see, there's no way to actually twirl it, so that's...
I was curious about that. I don't know, because the one I had, that's pretty beat up right now. Yeah, I was like, this doesn't... I also ended up showing somebody the one I got as well, and they're like, but you can't twirl it. That's I guess it's a gut hook or something. I don't he just named it, and there's other uses for it, right? But that very much is like not how that works actually, though.
100% not realistic. Not that we're nitpicking this early on.
It's a fair point.
Okay. I like that Leon's really pressing the attack. He's doing a lot of thrusts. All right, Leon just did a knife switch to the left hand, and he's switching again to his right hand for some reason. No real reason for that. Usually, anytime you want to do a switch within the same hand or to the other hand, you want to have a good reason for that.
Right.
Oh, I need...
I actually like this because I think Leon's a little more confident in this one. He's doing a lot of thrusts. They're very much keeping just outside of each other's measure, right? Stepping into measure, stepping into where you can hit, stepping outside of measure, they can no longer hit you. They're flirting in each other's measure very well, going for thrusts, keeping tight. Like, look at Krauser in this one, right? He's keeping tight, right? He's got that kind of like fighter, the boxer stance a little bit, right? They're definitely keeping tight. Krauser definitely favoring the reverse grip here. Him being a grappler as well, this does make sense. Leon very much favoring point forward, keeping point pointed at enemy. There's some isms I like about this, and I think that this one, I think I am biased towards this one. I feel like this one, both parties are a little more confident and a little more on an even playing field.
It had heard of my saddlers trusted me. Like you, I'm American.
Okay, good. See, that's good use of terrain by Krauser. Krauser kicks that barrel over to Leon to distract him. That happens in a real fight, right?
People kick barrels.
I mean, I guarantee you someone has kicked a hacky sack into someone else's face and thrust forward, right? This is something that I guarantee would have happened, right? MRE ration, wrapper on the ground, soda, beer can. Don't be responsible. Don't fight while drunk, right? Don't do that. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Kick pocket sand in their face, right? Even if the attack fails, what have you done? You have broken their concentration, right? It's the concept of, I mean, even if you're like say like Call of Duty, you're wearing protective equipment, minimizing flashbangs. So it's like, cool, maybe it's like a second where you're kind of inconvenienced. That's still a second where you're inconvenienced, where somebody can just drag enough snipe you from across the map, right? Like, barrel a little bit more weighty, right? Leon's still able to deal with that barrel pretty effectively, pretty efficiently. But notice what it does. It hides Krauser's advance, right? It's a 1-2 punch.
Well, people kick things.
Yeah.
Okay. Ugh, knife on knife. That doesn't generally happen. And
yeah.
Wait, did Krauser jump into? He did like a free dive jump with his knife cut.
Yeah, I wish I could do that.
All right, this version of Krauser I like better.
Okay.
He's better style.
Here we go. Krauser just defended with a knife. Leon's doing another knife switch, but attacking from the same side. So that worked. Leon was able to do that. I don't see that actually working in real life because he started from the left side and ended from the left side.
Right. Krauser left himself open for that.
Leon's cut missed his nipple.
Oh,
yeah.
Chad.
That'd have been weird.
Okay.
A little weird.
That would have been weird. Okay, there's a capture by Leon, but Krauser does the right thing. He does a knife switch. That is exactly when you do a knife switch. We're definitely going to talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
And standoff, I don't know how Krauser got out of that.
He literally kicked Leon in the butt.
He did. Leon should get a haircut. It's getting in his eyes too much.
Enough talk. Die, comrade.
Krauser's getting into what looks to be kind of like a neon belly or a mount position. Here, as you know, Krauser's in the dominant position. There's nothing to stop Krauser from clearing the obstruction and finishing off Leon. I don't know why he doesn't do it here.
Because the player's pressing D and A real fast. That's why.
Yeah, he is.
All right, somehow Leon disarmed Krauser, kicked him off.
Oh.
No, it's Ada shooting it. I mean, that is such a called shot, though.
Ada Wong to the rescue.
Yep.
I'd prefer her instead of Luis.
Well, who would?
Yeah.
Great style, great dress.
Wasn't really looking at the dress.
We are. So, all right, I got you guys.
You may be able to prolong your life, but it's not like you can escape your inevitable death, is it?
And Krauser's out.
So I like a lot of what they kept. I didn't actually realize they kept the knife switch in, so that was a good thing for them to point out. This is very, I mean, the remake is very faithful to the original, but it does do different things. I do think in both, Krauser is not going all out, right? Like, clearly he was able to flip jump himself up here, like some Metal Gear Solid 3 villain, right? He was able to just, do the launch jump where Leon and him fall off the platform. I mean, he's got some superhuman strength there. He's not going all out. Very much still is a test. If he ends up closing the gap, if Leon is just not up to snuff, I mean, it's game over, right? But he's also not going all out. So I think it's also really interesting as well because Leon's definitely, I mean, he's a little more cartoony and snarky in the original. I do have a bias towards that. I do like more confident and cheesy Leon. I like some cheese in my media. Thank you very much. But very faithful to the original. And I like that they did keep certain elements, as well as I think the overall design as well. They kept the overall feel of the fight.
The end.
Talking smack, nipple intact.
Chad.
Boom. Out. Or Logan, we saw two different scenes of the same scene.
Yep.
Same game, kind of. What are your thoughts?
One thing I do want to point out in both of these as a negative is the lack of flanking. Because really, if they're both trained professionals, they're both going to try to get a superior position. And as you know, as a fighter, fighting from the sides or definitely fighting from the back, that's the best way to fight. Here, they were both face on. That's one thing that was missing. It's hard to do, don't get me wrong, but there should have been at least attempts to try to flank.
So what we do see in both scenes are knife collisions?
Right.
How often do you see that in a real exchange?
Honestly, it's really rare. Why? Because generally speaking, when you're truly knife fighting, you're attacking center body mass, right? So it's going to be rare that it's going to be knife on knife. And plus, it's so small.
Yeah.
With swords, of course, that happens because they're longer. These are so short and they move so quickly, it's so unlikely to actually happen in real life.
I mean, right there, he literally supports the argument I made earlier. If I'm with a rapier or a longsword, yeah, sure, there's going to be some blade-on-blade contact. Okay, we're going to play with each other's tips a little bit, right? That's just how that works, right? But yeah, you're the area, the mass, the area, the size, like it's all much smaller. And I like where he added to that. Yeah, you're attacking center of mass, right? I'm sure if you can get a cheeky, cheeky nick on your opponent's face or their hand, you're going to take it, right? You're going to take open shots. But yeah, even with swords and stuff, like generally, yeah, pretty aiming center of mass. With rapiers, I think it gets a little different because they're dex weapons. And yeah, if you can just thrust and snipe your opponent's hand, you're going to take that shot all day. Suddenly, they don't have their good hand, right? So, like, I think we overall agree. We overall agree on the points, right? Like, with a knife specifically, it's going to be a little bit more close quarters, a little bit more intimate, a little bit more dirty even. And you're just not going to get the same blade-on-blade contact. I feel that, like, if you script it, like if it's a choreographed fight, absolutely, sure, you're going to be able to have that. But in an actual engagement, like if I were to, I don't know, pick up my funny polypropylene K-bar trainer and throw it to Buddy and say, let's go, I guarantee you we're going center of mass 10 out of 10 times. We're not going to be crossing blades. We're not going to be passing blades on each other.
Some might say these are big knives, but you'd say even these examples, they're still too small to have realistic collisions.
Yeah, because you're still moving really, really quickly.
Right.
I mean, maybe there's a slight improvement in the possibility it happens, but it's highly improbable.
If it happens, it
All right.
happens, but you're not aiming for
Let's
it.
get to this breakdown.
All right, so one thing that's consistent in both scenes are the knives. Incredibly cool. Here we have Krauser's combat knife and we have Leon's primal knife. Let's talk about the pros and cons of each and which one I like better. So
Are those combat ready? If so, I want to know where to buy these.
before we start, I just want to note that these are replicas, so they're not going to be exact. But one thing that I do want you to notice is that Krauser's knife is smaller. For combat, I definitely want the smaller, lighter knife. I also want to mention Kennedy's knife feels a little bit front-weighted, which might be good, but I don't know what the tang is. Now, the tang is the part that connects the blade to the handle.
I always go full tang. I mean, there's definitely arguments, especially how like tech has improved over the years. You can go half tang or not full tang. I always go full tang. Krauser's knife being full tang, I very much have a bias towards.
This version of Krauser's blade is a full tang. Not only is it full tang, it actually extends even further outside of the scales of the handle. This is actually, in real life, super indestructible. I can't see how this thing would break. On the flip side, because I don't see how Kennedy's primal knife is joined to the handle, this might be a full tang, it might be a half tang, it might just be a little nub. We don't know. But if you want to find out more about these knives, join our YouTube membership. For now, we're going to use our trainer knives for the safety of Chad.
So
Yeah, I mean, using trainers is smart here.
what stood out to me from the remake compared to the original fight scene is that there seemed to be some type of hand fighting between Leon and Krauser. Did any of that look legit? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, in the remake, there's a lot of parrying at the elbow, and that makes total sense. So a very, very basic drill when it comes to knife work in Kali is just that exact parrying. So if Chad came at me with a slash, I parry that. I come at him, he comes at me. I come at him, he comes at me.
Honestly, that makes a lot of sense, though. I hadn't considered that. But, I mean, knife fighting isn't my forte. So looking at this, yeah, you're going to slap their elbow because what is the elbow connected to? So if they're going to try to come at you straight and you come around and slap their elbow fast enough, you're going to accelerate their arm past you, and suddenly their arm's in front of them and their blade's off center. I'm really upset that I didn't even think about that.
And so forth and so on. That's a very basic drill. And why are basic drills important? Because basics are what wins and loses fights. Chad, would you agree that your grasp of basics is very important when it comes to fighting?
Basics are the simplest and quickest way of winning.
Yeah.
So
Right.
that's why they're the first layer that you start with first, and you get more complex later.
Absolutely, and that's totally true here. So here, the parrying was very basic, but logical. They did the right thing. There was a lot more parrying. Pardon me. There was parrying in the remake, but no parrying in
Right.
the original. And that's one of the reasons why I think the remake is more realistic so far. But
So the original definitely feels more like a sword fight or a dagger fight, where the focus is on the blades, whereas the remake, it's very much more in line with how things would function in an actual knife fight, right? Like, I mean, each of them has their own charm, right? I being on the sword end of things and loving swords and blades and stuff, right? Have a definite bias to it. But looking at, the remake and understanding, like you pointed out, being able to, love slap their arm and being able to send that sailing, right? Being able to parry in that capacity, right? I mean, that it's additive. It's just one of those things. It's not my forte. It's something I hadn't considered. Why I love watching things like this. Why I love actively doing, combat sports, because you learn how the body moves in interesting ways you don't really learn otherwise, if that makes sense. Knife fighting is basically fist fighting with an instant win variable, pretty much. Yeah, I mean, I think that is a good way to word that. The remake plays more akin to what I would be used to in terms of like coming into measure, thrusting, slashing, right? Versus the remake, where that comes across as more of a fist fight or a brawl with your instant win condition. I would 100% align with that.
let's see what else we have in store.
So, Logan, let's talk about knife grips.
Yep.
Krauser seems to be an ice pick man, meaning the ice pick grip that he holds. Given the grip, how he's moving, how he's fighting, does any of it, you think, make sense, looks legit? What are your thoughts?
If you hold your weapon out in hammer grip, and I'll have it in an ice pick grip, if you can touch my neck, right? So you can touch my neck, you'll note that I can barely reach you. So
Right.
if you're trying to do a slash, having it in an ice pick grip really doesn't make a lot of sense, because the best I can do is wound you, whereas you could actually finish me with the same distance. So that doesn't make sense. An ice pick grip generally makes sense with the edge side in and as a counter fighting. So you'll note that if Chad slashes to my neck, I can capture his weapon with my hand in an ice pick grip, because the edge is in. As I pass it, I'm cutting myself out, and now I can launch an attack this way. That makes more sense for me to have my weapon in an ice pick grip than what Krauser was doing, trying to slash with it. Didn't make a lot of sense.
I love that entire explanation. That makes so much more sense. So, and that's the thing, is like, whether you call it reverse grip, half moon grip, and there's definitely different schools of thought on the subject of holding a blade backwards, right? You're also kind of working against physics, right? Like, you holding a sword up, holding it, point up, right? And if someone pushes against the tip, right, your wrist, your arm interacts in a certain way. If you're reverse gripping it and someone pushes the tip, your arm also reacts in a different way. At its core as well, I mean, talking about basics, your point is not pointed towards their squishy bits, right? So that's a big consideration. It's not to say that, well, anyone who reverse grips or half moon grips a blade and is just trying to be, a wee right? No, that's not how that works. There are valid ways to reverse grip. There's valid ways to hold a blade backwards. Clearly, he showcased one right there. One that I'm like, oh my God, like, as soon as I see it, it makes sense. Could I have come to that conclusion organically? Maybe, with enough time. But this is also why I love the internet, why I love hearing different people's perspectives, right? And I guarantee you, I'm sure that John Marine or John Navy is going to be able to be like, well, actually, I mean, in basic, I had a match that went like this, and I did this, and it worked just fine. And I'm just like, being able to talk to each other, being able to like build up that skill set and build up that knowledge base is just super fascinating to me. It's why I love stuff like this. It augments my own knowledge. So now I can go into something like SCA. Can I necessarily use it in Rapier? Not really, because generally you're looking for thrust. Any hit that's going to be like a slash is going to be percussive unless you draw the cut. It's the format specifically. Don't worry about it, right? But like, there is a use case for things like this, and especially going into using K-bar knife trainers for exercise and activities, right? This is a thing that I can look at, and this is a thing I can train myself on, and others can train on to more adequately work with it. And I'm sure that there's situations where you would reverse grip and have handle or have a true edge back versus true edge forward, right? there's many different schools of thought and many different philosophies, and some work way better than others, but it can also be situation dependent.
So Chad, to answer your question, yes, an ice pick grip is valid, but the way Krauser was doing it, it didn't seem realistic because Krauser's a trained professional.
USMC basic knife fighting doesn't teach reverse grip because it's an advanced technique. I'm okay with that, though. I think that being something you have, he's talking about professionals, like, because Krauser's a trained professional. If you're going to want to do something like that, you do need the basics down, I would argue. If nothing else, if you're going to suddenly reverse your grip, you're going to have to know how to fight people actively holding it, point forward standard, right? Point up standard, right? You have to know how to fight that, right? You have to know the rules to break the rules, so to speak, right? You have to, yes, work up to it. I wholeheartedly agree with that. Krauser being a trained professional, I mean, this is also one of those, he is also superhuman augmented. So there are certain situations where you could argue he's being sloppy, and he's kind of allowed to be sloppy because his superhuman augments make up for that, right? Not that he's being an optimal fighter, not that he's being a good fighter and following his training. It's that he kind of has the handicap because he's superhuman augmented. So he kind of gets to sleaze things a little bit.
That didn't seem real.
All right, so Logan, we see Leon with a hammer grip, stabbing a lot. So his grip, his attacks, his stance, how he's moving, what are your thoughts on how good it is?
So for Leon, the hammer grip does make a lot of sense because he's doing a lot of stabbing. And again, as I said earlier, I can get a lot more penetration because I have a longer weapon. My lever is longer, so I can attack greater. Of course, slashing is entirely possible, but as we had said, slashing is suboptimal compared to stabbing. Mm-hmm. So since Leon likes to stab, him having it in primarily a hammer grip makes a lot of sense.
In your eyes, who is showing the most knife experience between Leon and Krauser?
That's a good question. I mean, of the scene, Krauser's supposed to be the more experienced knife fighter, but how it's conveyed in the visuals, Leon looks like he knows what he's doing better. So I would have to give it to Leon.
Then, you know what?
What?
It's sold.
Lovely. Wonderful,
Team Leon.
even.
And hammer grip. All the way.
But one thing I did like was Krauser's knife switch and his timing of it. So in the remake, at least, Krauser comes in with this type of attack, which is captured by Kennedy. Krauser passes his own weapon off to his other hand rather than tossing it, and this enables him to counterattack more reliably. Right. So in the original, the timing by Krauser for the knife switch was correct, but the manner in which Krauser did the knife switch was suboptimal. Here, Leon captured Krauser's knife, but Krauser tossed his weapon to the other side. There's no way a trained knife fighter would ever do that.
So here's the thing. He's going to be correct. He's correct in what he's talking about, because if you toss your weapon, like your hand literally leaves your weapon. You have zero guarantee that weapon will meet your other hand. At that point, that's RNG. You've left that up to fate. You have tossed that away for all intents and purposes, and if you happen to catch it, awesome. If not, well, that sucks, right? I agree with him here. What he says makes sense.
Because if you toss your weapon, you might miss.
Yeah.
So what would have made more sense? Simply passing it off, enabling me to launch an attack. Mm-hmm. But that knife switch is nowhere near as bad as Leon's knife switch in the original. Because
so before we move on to Leon's knife switch in the original, I love how Krauser's able to use the momentum, because like in the initial one, right, in the remake, where Leon catches his hand, and his hand is kind of pushing Krauser's his knife arm down. He uses that momentum to circle under to pass off, right? I think that's great, using momentum, right? Krauser being able to pass this here, once again, we can argue superhuman augmented. He's tossing it fairly quickly, but like, you're rolling the dice on that one. I 100% agree with that.
Both the timing and technique was off. Let's take a look. Leon starts with what looks to be a number 5 stab, but then switches hands by throwing his knife, turns, and then slashes at Krauser's belly. So that doesn't make sense for a multitude of reasons.
The biggest one for me is that he's showing his back to Krauser. Like, Krauser could hypothetically, not even knife forward, right? Krauser could just push forward with kick off, and then just tackle Leon. His back is turned, right? It's entirely possible that he just loses right there. Spinning, as we've talked about, I mean, you can do spinning. You can use it to choose as, taking momentum, being able to spin and reposition. I mean, it's very risky because you are showing your back to your opponent. You want to make sure you're spinning for the right reasons, not just Jedi spinning to Jedi spin, right? Number of things here specifically. When he says number 5, I'm sure there's a chart somewhere, or I'm sure there's a manual. I'd be very interested if someone knows what manual he's talking about.
Let's start with each one. Number 1, switching by throwing the knife. We just said that's not a good idea. But then the next thing he did was he gave up his back. Listen, against a trained fighter, especially a fighter like Chad, there is no way I'm going to give Chad my back in any capacity, even for an instant, because there's too much risk of me losing the fight right then and there. And the last thing is, note that the attack started on the left side and it ends on the left side. So why do it? Why not just continue an attack from the left side?
This is actually a little bit of an error I'm noticing. So look at where Krauser's blade is, right? So we're gonna back up a little bit. And not that it's an error, but it's a big consideration for this scene. So we have Leon, sure, he makes the pass. So he strikes from left, he makes the pass. See, Krauser here could have just lunged forward and just absolutely tackled Leon, right? His knife would have gone clattering. Krauser could have actually won the fight, in my opinion. Look where Krauser's hand is. Krauser allows this hit to connect because he's actively back at he's winding up the haymaker effectively, right? Krauser is seeing him wind up the haymaker and is actively choosing to back away rather than, maybe passing step to the left where Leon's knife currently is, where my model is, right? He could passing step that way. He literally has the knife in his right hand. He could, especially for working on parry mechanics, that this fight specifically is very fond of. It's very odd that look at it. That is such a shot, right? Right under, and Krauser even sees this, right? He's going for that block. He's going for that parry. It's that hesitation here, because you notice he does recoil, right? He goes here, he is recoiling a little bit, and then he sees what's going on, and then he's trying to correct, right? Leon barely gets under his knife. We don't even see the knife in this specific shot. Going from this right under it. So this one is actually, this kind of recontextualizes the scene a little bit, where I think, and I've watched this scene a lot, Krauser, in my opinion, should have won here if he was trying. Krauser really kind of allowed this shot to connect. That is a wild, to be fair, it's not as wild, I guess. I mean, I've talked about how my buddy in Rapier, right? He shot underneath my Rapier, over my gorget, and underneath my helmet. So his tipped Rapier was right at my throat. And we laughed about it after, and he's just like, we're just both like, yeah, that was a wild shot, right? These things do happen. I'm sure anyone who's sword fought or knife fought, right, can tell you some weird 1 in a million instance that's happened like this. This happens more often than not, right? I feel. This is very much, that is kind of wild to watch how close that is, and kind of look at that scene by scene.
Let's continue an attack from the left side. Mm-hmm. So it did not make any sense whatsoever. Neither the timing made sense, nor did the technique make sense. That was terrible. So 1 point for the remake.
So, you know what?
I love it. It's perfect.
Back to Team Krauser, baby.
Please don't make me get a beret, chat. I don't want to take care of it.
My man Krauser was throwing a lot of kicks in this fight.
Right.
Good, bad, what are your thoughts?
Well, kicks are certainly valid in any fight, but in terms of knife fighting, generally speaking, as a rule of thumb, you don't want to go above the waist. And the reason why is if you threw a kick above the waist, note that, dude, I am ending that fight right then and there.
There's a lot of arteries there as well. A lot of red liquid there.
So this is an attack to the femoral artery. That fight is finished. So again, we're always looking at risk versus reward. The risk is that I end up finishing the fight. The reward is what? You kick me one time?
So I'm going to correct that because it's driving me insane. Yes, there is an artery there, a big artery there. It is important. Not many arteries. There is an big artery there because it's driving me insane on that one. This is also superhuman augment. He was able to he was able to kick him off a platform onto another ledge, right? This is, I feel, Krauser being superhuman augmented, being able to sleeve some stuff that he wouldn't otherwise be able to get away with, right? But what is the benefit to just square on Sparta kicking someone in the chest or back when you could just kick their shin, when you could kick their ankle, when you could stamp on their feet, right? At least if you stamp on their foot, at least their foot ain't moving, right? So that is also something to consider.
I don't see it being worthwhile. So I don't think that a real combatant that's trained in knife work would do something like that. No. So in that sense, Krauser's showing some pretty poor fight IQ.
Damn it, Krauser. Okay. So kicks below the waistline. Good, bad, any advantages?
Yeah, kicking below the waist. Look, if you kick me, I can't really do an attack properly with my knife. Kicks below the waist are not going to cause too much damage, but you want to accumulate as much damage against your opponent as possible. So every little bit counts. Yeah. That would be more valid. That would show greater fight IQ than kicking above the waist.
So one of our YouTube members had a good question. Mm-hmm. They're simply asking, what are the differences between knife footwork and hand-to-hand combat footwork?
This is a really good question.
It's a great question. So why don't you show everyone what a good boxing or MMA stance is? How would you stand?
General rule is weak side leads. I'm right-handed, so my left side would lead. Furthermore, stance is a little bit wider for balance, movement, and to generate power and force with punches and kicks.
So,
wow, that is a wide stance. I'm trying to remember, because usually what I do in SCA, feet shoulder to shoulder, quarter turn, your back foot, right? Well, there's a little bit more to it, right? I'd have to actively work through it and try to explain it. I feel like because of what hand-to-hand is doing, that stance is definitely wider. I'm sure that lowers your center of gravity too, right? So there's definitely considerations to be made for what I do with swords and blades, rapiers and long swords, as opposed to hand-to-hand. That is good information to actually think about.
Ours is essentially the same except mirrored. So because I'm right hand dominant, I would have my right lead leg. Why? Because I want greater reach here. Also, I just want to be able to be nimble on my feet. So I want to be able to change directions really quickly because knife work, weapons work, things happen really quickly.
Right.
So someone with a striking background, whether it's boxing, mixed martial arts, Muay Thai, whatever, could they take their skills and translate very quickly to knife work?
I would say yes, offhand. Well, he just clarified. Raven clarifies in chat, grappling stance as well is wide to provide stability. Krauser as well. Very grapple heavy, right? He's very much, you could see him bear hug you and plunge his knife in, right? That's something that he would do. That's something he could do. So his stance being a little wider does also make sense.
Absolutely. So what I've discovered is when I'm against a boxer that is a trained boxer and has his weapon in his jab hand, it's really hard for me to deal with that. Why? Because they're so good at closing distance, getting out of harm's way, and just launching quick attacks.
I'm bad at this. I'm bad at closing the gap. That is one that I physically have to spend hundreds of hours perfecting.
So it is a very, very different way of knife fighting that is still very valid.
So in both versions, Krauser and Leon's fight goes to the ground with Krauser on top with a knife trying to stab. Leon is holding him off and stopping it. What are your thoughts on the realism of that part of the fight?
Not really realistic. Let's explain why. So in both the original and the remake, Krauser ends up in a top position. He has double force in an ice pick grip. He comes down onto Leon, but Leon stops it, and then Krauser tries to force his weapon through, failing each time. That doesn't make a lot of sense. What would have made more sense is for me to tear down and come in again.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to try to fight force with force, but to redirect force and re-attack.
So this is the difference between, say, fighting to enjoy it and fighting to win. We're gonna fight to enjoy it because Lamau, I got you in the funny pick situation, and I'm gonna push to try to press this advantage, right? Sure, you're fighting to fight. Fighting to win, yeah. Wait a minute, he's holding me. I'm gonna angle this. I'm going to cut both of his hands doing this, and then I'm going to redouble my attack. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. It feels dirty, but when you fight to win, you fight to win. Your goal is to win by any means necessary, is it not?
And that would have been a more realistic answer for Krauser to have in both scenes.
Yeah.
Logan, here we are. So you, me, the fans, and your decision. We saw the original and the remake of Leon versus Krauser. And so the question is, which one do you think is the most realistic?
Honestly, hands down, the remake was
Yeah.
more realistic. So while the remake was still faithful in terms of choreography to the original, it just improved upon it. For example, the knife switch, that was just done better. Obviously, they had someone that was trained and said to them, look, a real knife fighter is not going to toss his weapon. A real knife fighter is going to hand off his weapon. Little details like that matter.
All right, there it is. But there's a more important question. Can you stop a chainsaw with a knife?
No.
Wait, what?
Is that the GameCube controller, the chainsaw one? That'd be really funny if that was. I honestly enjoyed this. I loved this. And that's the thing. When we talk about combat sports, when we talk about combat, I have my own experience and I have, my own ways of going about things. And I am still very new, all things considered, right? When I was on vacation down in Oklahoma, I had our mod. He handed me off his Boken, right? And the difference, I was just like, I know some things, but he even commented about you're holding it and you're standing in specific ways. You know more than the average person, right? Am I these guys level? No, absolutely not. And I appreciate them for making this video. It was very education. Words, brain. I'm trying to say educated, but I don't think that's a word. It was very educational and it was very, very good. I honestly thoroughly enjoyed this. And while I have my own experiences with blade fighting, while I have my own experiences with rapier, long swords, preference for sword and board, right? Dual wielding rapiers and trying to sync up, how I strike with them, right? It's foreign and adjacent to what close combat fighting is, right? To fist fighting. It's so foreign and adjacent to even knife fighting, and it's really cool to look at things like this and kind of go at it from a compare and contrast and even learn things, right? Looking at things that they're just like matter of fact, like, oh yeah, well just turn the blade in and cut his hands 5 head and then just strike him again, right? Totally makes sense. Things I hadn't considered. This also can, and I also can take this information and augment my own information and how I go about things. Maybe this will become useful in SCA at some point, right? Especially if draw cuts and rapier are legal, right? Oh, interesting, right? Not that there's much grappling or anything going on in rapier, right? It's very, very hands off. But it's good information, and it's about taking something and being able to look at it for not just what it is, but how many facets it has and how can you apply things in different ways. And there's something special about that. So thank you everyone for hearing me yap for about 50 minutes on knife fighting. Love content like this. Can't wait to actually get back to active SCA fighting as well. And even then, I'd like to try out HEMA, ACL, and other things. See how different people in different organizations and stuff fight. I think there's something special about that. I honestly enjoyed this. Thank you to Scenic Fights for honestly an amazing breakdown. Honestly, a very educational breakdown. And I will see you all in the next one.